Don, would you lead us, please, sir?
Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for your blessings that you give to us each and every day, Father. And Father, we ask you to be with us tonight as we discuss the business of the city, Father. Just give us the wisdom from you as we discuss these matters. And Father, we would lift up these that have been mentioned tonight. This young mother who's lost a child, and all the people on the Gulf Coast that have suffered damages, and those in Montana. And Father, just be with them, comfort them, and be with them in days and months ahead, Father. Again, just be with us tonight as we discuss this business. May we give honor and glory to you. In Christ's name that I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Have a motion to approve the minutes of previous meetings. Paul makes that motion. Is there a second?
Where are the minutes? I beg your pardon. You have this?
Yeah.
You heard from Fred? Okay. All right, Donald made a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Just need another.
All right.
You can vote on that?
We're trying to read.
Oh, I got it.
Oh, okay.
I got some.
All right.
You ready to go, Joe?
Do
You ready to get it going?
I thought I missed it. You know? My hearing is not what it used to be.
Are we approving, there's 4 sets of minutes?
A regular meeting, a special meeting, and where we had to come back and vote on them.
There's the motion to approve all 4?
Yeah, it's all in that.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Someone let me know when you're ready.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. Okay, and those in favor? Okay, we're missing Fred, right? Okay. We had, next item on the agenda is, we set a public hearing on the budget that we had published in the paper, and I'm gonna skip Mickey for the time being, because we had this set at 6:30. Hang on, Mr. Howley. Take care of them, Grant. So, any questions on the budget? Comments?
Yeah, I came to that meeting, but, you know, what's the total budget? What are each, I've never seen any paperwork that it.
Did you publish that in the
I don't
paper?
like it.
Okay. Did you catch it in the Herald?
No, I did not catch it in the Herald.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and what's the date on that issue, please?
Give me the date on that issue.
I went out, 17th day of August.
17th?
17th of August.
Thank you.
Okay. But I can run over the departments real quick for you.
Well, I'm real curious, just what is total budget?
Total expenditure, proposed expenditure is $2,957,500. $2,957,500, and that's against a revenue from all sources of $3,228,771. Okay. Okay. All right, so I'm going to suggest to the board that we gather here 1 week from today, that's required, but what's your trouble?
I'm just curious, there's a lot of folks here, is that the only comment? or was it-
Well,
Not sitting both ways.
without seeing the actual figures, but,
Yeah.
you know.
Okay. The statutes require that we vote on the budget in 1 week from this hearing, no sooner than 1 week. And that would be, I'm gonna suggest we set it a week from today for September the 12th. Normally we do it at 9:30 in the morning.
Not 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock will work. Takes just a few minutes.
So for those of us who haven't seen all the specifics, it can't, before you do the final, if we do have questions, we can bring it up on the 12th.
No, this is the 9th.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Well,
But tonight's your 9th.
I have a question about the budget.
you know, can we see a copy of?
Man, we've had a copy in the paper, and we've had our proposed, we've had our, pardon?
No, that's fine.
Okay, good. Who had a question?
Is there going to
Is that
be
mine?
room in the budget, or how will the animal shelter and our new facility function in with what's going on with the city? And is there a stipend in the budget to fund us more with us having an actual facility instead of utilizing the city pound now? Or are we going to function on in the manner in which we've been doing, which is $30 a dog at a cap of 100 dogs? Or how would we go about that, since our facility will be larger and require more work?
All right, but that agreement that we have will still be in place, okay? And when you guys get going full steam, which I don't think you are, and ready to make the transition, we'll revisit that agreement, reword it, but you are covered in the proposed budget.
So any financials from the city that come to Second Chance through our agreement with the city to fund the shelter will all be revisited in our agreement?
It's in place and will be revisited when you have the new facility completed. Okay?
I would,
Did I get it, Mo?
so is that you tell us when you're ready and come and ask us, because I don't think the board has seen, I haven't seen the current agreement, but I would love to see what you need, what you're operating under, and there is room in the budget. There's a gap, as you heard, from revenue to what we decided to spend. So please tell us and let us discuss and figure out what works.
It would be in Parks, it's in there.
Oh.
You through, Kagan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Is there money in the budget to fly the state flag along with the American flag outside of City Hall?
It's, there would be ample money in the budget to handle flags. Okay. Any more questions? Okay.
Was there, I'm sorry, I was out of town, was there coverage of we did have, Charlotte, it took an hour and a half of an open meeting where we went line item by line item through the budget. And that was on Monday night after the carnival. And I was wondering, was that written up in the paper? I'm sorry.
Just very, very generally, I didn't go through in the story and list it by line item. I
But
did
then-
not.
But then it was published.
It was published.
Yeah, it was published together.
Some of us don't subscribe, so, yeah. No offense, David.
I'm sorry.
75 cents a week.
Nope.
I'll give you a free subscription for a year.
Okay, is that date suitable?
9 o'clock, September 12th, all
Right.
right? Okay.
All right, 1 second.
Right. Some of them are electronically,
I got it too.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm good. Nicole, are you?
Okay.
We need a
Need a
motion.
motion to that effect then. We meet, Nicole makes that motion that we meet Tuesday the 12th at 9 o'clock.
I'll
To
second.
vote the budget. Kagan seconds. Those in favor? Okay? Thank you. All right, let's hear from Mickey Howley right now.
Just a couple of things. The 9th annual art crawl is going to be Saturday night, September 23rd, from 5:30 to 9 o'clock. Art Council on Main Street are putting that on again. Right now, we've got 14 different venues confirmed, possibly 16. You know how artists are; they take their time about saying yes. And so we're looking forward to a good weather and a nice evening for that night. Please come out. The Main Street 10th annual membership meeting is going to be October 12th. It's a Thursday night, and we're going to have it outside the Pocket Park, weather permitting. And we hope to have a nice shindig. It's our 10th anniversary, and we're happy with what's happened so far with the Main Street Association downtown. We actually would like everybody to attend if you're not bored. Everybody? There's a lot of people in the room that are part of the association and critical in its success, and so that would be great if they could come. We've got several businesses that have opened in the past month on Main Street, and we've got a couple more that are coming in this coming month. A few of them are waiting on odds and ends, but we expect to have at least 2 new businesses open this month. You can see there's still some construction going on Main Street. Every day you go down on Main Street, you hear people working, and right now there's some working going on in upper floors downtown. And I'd like to remind everybody that after you guys approve the budget on September 12th, that evening, the council, the county, I should say, has a public meeting September 12th at 7 o'clock in the courthouse concerning proposed zoning regs and direction for this county and economic direction for the future. There are 3 meetings this coming week, and it would be great if people from the town and city elected officials would attend and put some input into that. So there was one last week, and it was well attended, but there's always room for more.
What time is that?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. At the
Courthouse.
courthouse?
On the 11th, it's in Coffeyville. 12th, it's in Water Valley. 14th, it's in Oakland. All at 7 o'clock.
Does Lee and them serve refreshments or anything?
I think Lee's,
Make cookies?
there's an open tap after at the brewery.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, no, so
Come on down, Mayor, join us.
it would be great if y'all could attend those. They've been very great. They've been good so far, and it's more discussion about where the city and the town are going, and we always feel with Main Street, the more people, the more voices we get involved, the better the outcome.
Are those folks from the Census Institute?
They were here last week, and this is going to be next time. Next time it's going to be Bob Barber, who's working for the county.
Thank you, Mr. Howley. John Crow, would you discuss the document that you have for us?
Y'all remember I gave
Public
you
records.
a copy of the public record request policy. The reason I had revised this is because it's been several years since we've done this. Y'all, I assume y'all have been over this. I have been back over it to make some changes that in regard to making it a little bit more specific as to whom anyone who wanted a public record to make that request, and I made that change to the city clerk. So, y'all, if any comments on what you've had thus far?
Remind me of the duration, how long from the time that the request is made to when they can expect it?
Well, it's
7 business.
7. The city has to respond within 7 days from the date of the request. If for some reason that additional time, then up to it must be provided in another 7 days. So up to 14 days from the receipt of the original request. Sometimes these records are voluminous, and that gives a little bit more time, but As I recall, it never takes more than 7.
Vivian, can you tell us how frequently do we, as a town, receive public records requests?
I probably haven't had about 3, but I feel like, you know, with the way times are now, it's gonna get more frequent. I really
3?
haven't, and all the time I've been here,
Oh,
28
wow.
years, I really haven't had that many.
Do we have a, I'm sorry, I read this and I didn't see it for a while. Is there a stipulation of whether or not we can deliver electronic versus?
If it's in the format, it can be delivered in that way. In other words, if they want a document that's 50 pages, I don't know whether we have any of those, it can be downloaded and sent out, but it's at their cost, prepaid cost.
Are all of our files kept in this facility, or do we have off-site?
Yes, they're all here.
So they're all within 15 feet of
They're in
the
the
city?
vault.
So,
And I do have some on the computer, the more, or, you know, later things that we've done.
I have a question. Do we have scanning capabilities so that records can be scanned and then stored electronically?
Yes, ma'am, the smaller papers. If
Like-
it's something large, it would be a little bit more.
Oh, yeah, like
It can be
plans or
done,
something.
but it would
But,
take a little time.
but you could do letter and legal?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks.
I can,
Karen.
oh,
Go ahead, John. Unless you got a question, what he said so far.
no, I have some comments I'd like to discuss.
You done, John?
Go ahead, because
Well, I need to, if y'all intend on, if you want to discuss it some more, if you intend on acting on it, I need to read the whole thing.
Right. I think we can act on it tonight.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I'd
I've
like
got
to,
questions.
I'd like to discuss, so,
We can't pass it like it's written right now. He said there's some corrections that he's done.
No, I've
we're
already
not
made
aware
the
of.
corrections.
Oh, in this copy from last time?
Yeah, all it says is,
Okay.
I'm putting city clerk in there. There's no material change. I'm making the
It's
governing,
just the governing authority, the city clerk only.
well, the governing authority is the mayor and board of aldermen. But as to whom you make this request to is to the city clerk. So I spell that out in there.
Yeah, because that's not in this one.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
And it also says that you can ask a head of the department,
No, you
Well,
had,
we've taken those out.
but I don't have that. That's why I'm asking.
That's what I was gonna read then.
That's what okay, well,
Oh, this is a new copy.
yeah.
Oh,
wait, this is different.
In other words, you wouldn't go to the city electric department to get a copy of anything. You're gonna have to come here.
right, and that's one of my
It's not in yours.
This one,
So that's the reason I was gonna read it.
Oh, well, I have other questions,
Okay.
but I should wait till you finish reading in case it
Well,
covers
why
some
don't
of
you do
those
this?
questions.
Ask the question if you want to.
Okay.
And, go ahead.
Okay, so, paragraph 3, right there, we're
All right.
in. Prior policies says, desires to amend its prior policies. What's the old policy?
We've got one that's at least 10
more than
years
that.
old, and
I didn't think we did, but I.
Public Records has gone through numerous changes.
Right, so Vivian said that there was.
We don't
not
have one?
I don't believe we have one. I didn't see one when we looked before, so we went by the state.
We've just been
statute
going by
at
the
time.
statute?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well then, that's not anything material right there to change.
All right, but it's in there 2 or 3 times. At the end too. I'm not a lawyer, I know.
Okay, well,
You give me that side look, I know. Okay.
I mean, it's
so-
like taking out an A and an a V. It doesn't make any difference whether it's.
I just was curious what the old policy was.
Okay, all right, I
I
don't
mean,
need
if
to
we're gonna
change
change
it.
the policy, I would like to know what the old one says.
What
Because
is
this is gonna
this?
supersede all old policies.
well, let her get through.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so my question was, who's the governing authority? It's us, but the city clerk's name, or city, what you said that's in there. And what form are we gonna use? A blank form for people to
Well,
ask
that's,
for record request?
it's just gonna be,
I mean, would we
any
follow,
written document.
will we follow this one from the Office of Attorney General? The request for public records?
Yeah,
Something
would
like
be
that?
good.
I mean, we gotta.
Sure.
Cause if we're gonna enact this, we have to have a form that goes with it. Do we have to?
No, you don't have to.
You don't have to, but I'd like to. Wouldn't you like to have
That's
a
fine
form?
right there.
Wouldn't
That-
you
I
like to
think
have a
it's-
form?
It's either way, it's
I
fine.
think that's good.
What you were
If
saying
they
was,
want it, I'm fine with it.
they just write
Whether
something
it's a
up
form
and
or
just turn it
letter
in?
form, I'm fine
Yeah.
with it.
That's, I would prefer to have a clear if we're, can I, Vivian, what is the state statute that we're following
Yeah.
today? What is, I'm not quite sure, if we don't have an old version that we're amending,
There is a public, I don't know what the statute number
then
is.
It's 2561-1.
what instigated the need for us to adopt a personal one?
To have it.
Is this one better than the state?
This is the state.
It's paraphrased.
This is the
This is
state.
just pieces
Yeah.
from that.
This is the
pieces
state
from-
statutes embodied, and we're making a policy for it.
This is not the whole code. This is just parts of that, of the code.
Okay, so we are currently.
You know, next time,
operating-
I'm not gonna go out and do this on my own, let's show. Just,
We
I'm-
appreciate it, but we're new, hon. We got to,
I'm aware of that.
trying to
I'm
figure it
aware of
out.
that. Very well aware of that.
So we are operating under, Ms. Vivian, when you have a request, you provide it based on.
Everything we do is under the laws and the Constitution of the state of Mississippi.
Wonderful. Glad to hear. We are about to adopt a new ordinance for Water Valley to have.
It's not an ordinance, it's a policy.
Okay, we're going to adopt our own policy, which is going to change how we behave in what ways. Could you give me a gap between what we've been doing and what this policy tells us? to
Same
do?
thing,
So why would we need to adopt it?
then don't do it.
Sir, could you please answer why we would adopt this?
All the other cities do it, the county does it.
That is not.
To me, it seems like it's spelling out who's responsible to require. In
Yeah.
a state statute probably, and I don't know, does it spell out the city
It-
clerk?
For instance, if you come in for records
It,
and we don't have a policy, where do we go? Oh, it's over there in the code. Here, it's in 5 pages.
So there's nothing in here that is a difference from. the
There's,
way we operate.
it complies with the code.
that's
This
what
is
I
a
was
shorter
getting into.
version.
Okay,
If you want to
of the
pass that
code.
back.
yes.
Oh.
You're just paranoia.
I've never had such a hostile answer to it.
We're not paranoid.
Please tell me the question.
I'm not paranoid. Some of this is paraphrased and some of this has been omitted.
You won't, I won't do it again. That's for sure.
Okay, Cinnamon, go ahead.
No, hey. you
I
have
appreciate you
nothing.
helping us.
You
That's your
have-
job.
You have no reason to apologize to me. I'm sincere. You know, there's no, any question is welcome.
And any
But-
input that you have for the boards that you've taken
I understand that. It's just,
time for you to
this
do
is,
this.
I've been through 37 years of government, and quite frankly, I've never had questions like this before. And I've served under probably 50 different supervisors and aldermen, maybe 100. And no questions have ever come like this.
Just to
No.
understand what's happening.
No questions have ever come like this.
Like this, I mean, we're just asking
Well-
simple questions. I just,
All
yeah,
right,
I have the
I'm done with
ordinance, but are you're quitting?
No.
Do we want to adopt the policy
I
or?
think it's actually to make it
or not?
easier if somebody comes
Sure,
in.
and I
can show
understand
them
that.
instead of trying to find it in the law book. for
That's
them.
right.
Could I ask a question?
This is for something
Mr. Crowe.
adapted from the from the state
Okay,
level
Mr.
to the,
Coughlin.
Did someone ask you to do this?
No.
So this is
I
are giving us
explained-
guidance.
I
that we
explained
should
to
have
you
on.
last time, and everyone here, that board attorneys, city and board attorneys have a blog. And so I get these through email every day. I've got literally hundreds. We talk to each other about problems that we have so we can resolve those. One came across about a new public records policy. out of DeSoto County. I read it, like I read all those things that come across my desk and spend a lot of time on it for cities and counties. This one came out and I said, that looks pretty good. I don't recall, I thought we had one, but I don't recall us doing it in the past. And as much help as we need now, I thought that would be a good idea.
I think we need it. I just was going through
So,
it.
that's where it is. I'm not trying to pull anything.
Thank you. So you're,
I'm just a lawyer.
as our board attorney, you're advising us that we need something like this in place.
To be able
Yeah.
to, unless
Great.
you just want to say,
And it helps visitors.
if somebody comes up to you, if you were city clerk and say, I need a copy of this and this and this and this. And you say, well, you need to make your request pursuant to here's our policy. Rather than, well, can you go over there to that code book? I don't know what statute it says, what the statute is, but you can read it.
Can I ask one last question without?
Sure.
All right. Is 7 days more time or less time than?
That's the only
Let me
time.
tell you this.
That's state statute.
Well, you don't have to give 7 days. Let me tell you.
If you don't have a policy, you have to get it to them within 1 day,
No. No.
within 1 working day.
I don't know what you're reading from.
I'm reading from the state statute.
You're not reading out of the code book.
Yeah, this is directly out of Facebook.
How do you know it is?
Well, I went to the state website. I'm just helping Kagan. It says if a
This code
public,
book's right back there.
yeah,
That's the law.
I know.
That's not, it may be right, it may be wrong.
Okay. All I'm saying is, it says if a public body has not adopted written procedures, the right to inspect, copy, or mechanically reproduce or obtain a reproduction of a public record of the public body shall be provided within 1 working day if there's no policy in place. This
Okay.
policy in place, being put in place, is helping. It's helping Vivian. It gives her time, 7 days, to get this done.
But it
I'm
never
not-
takes 7 days.
Sure. but-
Whenever they get time, you just can't drop what you're doing.
Exactly, and that's why
And-
this policy is good for us locally.
All right, let's go forward. You said you just had one question.
I didn't get an answer to it there from Mr. Crowe. I got an
Oh,
answer from
okay.
Cinnamon. Mr. Crowe, is 7 days more time or less time, or is it the standard time?
To do what?
To provide the
Code
requested-
says 7 days.
Great. Thank you, sir.
It's more time, and it says.
Cinnamon, did you have more
I,
questions?
you know, this is great. I love it. And all I wanted to do, ask you, number 2, I'm sorry. I just hate to upset you.
Number 2.
It was talking about redacted or exempted material. And you mentioned, it's mentioned in fees. There's no page numbers on here. Keep going. Under fees, number 2. In the event of searching. keep
Okay,
going.
all right.
Fees number, keep going.
Number
Well, yours is different from mine now because it's a different copy.
This is a new
fees.
Yeah, so this just talks about non-exempt
Okay.
material, but we left that piece out, just as
All right.
further. So it just needs to, the non-exempt material needs to be in there too.
Well, that's in there. Last time I gave you
Okay.
a mixed up copy. I'm sorry about that. I apologize.
This is all I had to go on. This is all, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And
Okay.
do we have do we develop a standard fee scale? So we can do that. On how to charge. I know you got the 25 cents and then the certified copies.
You can't charge any more, as I recall, than what's your actual cost.
Well,
But
that's not, it's based on the lowest paid employee, and if it takes over such amount of time, then we can charge more for it based on the lowest paid employee.
Yeah.
And that's where your
You
fee scale
have
comes
that
in.
in there, you have that in there, John.
But that's where your fee scale comes in. And we don't, I mean, I was just asking, do we have that in a
Roman
separate document?
Roman numeral 2, fees.
No. No, we don't. We don't have a
Okay.
fee scale.
All right. Okay.
I mean, these are drawn up by some of the best attorneys in the state.
Mhm.
This
I'm
one was
not
drawn up
disputing
by
this at all.
DeSoto County,
Yes, sir.
leading county in the state.
Yes. I'm not disputing it. I'm just asking questions.
Okay.
You're the teacher and I'm a student. I'm learning.
I'm not the teacher.
Yeah, well,
All right, let's,
okay.
What's
So
the
the only thing I was asking about is trade secrets and confidential commercial or financial information, and trade secrets, that kind of thing was like omitted. But the way this top reads, it doesn't matter if it's omitted here, if it's in the actual code. This is a copy of the code. So we're going off this code, but there's a couple of things like exemption for private information for people possessing a gun permit, exemption for private information of law enforcement, judicial, and prosecutorial personnel, things like that. There's not, the exemptions weren't pulled.
The exemptions are in the code.
In the code, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, so we don't have to have that in our
No,
policy.
no,
Okay,
because we have the state law.
okay. So no matter what, the state law is gonna supersede our policy.
Exactly.
Okay, questions answered, thank you so much.
do you have any more questions?
No, sir.
Okay, John, you wanna finish reading, or you want a chance?
I don't know.
We gotta,
Guys.
we gotta read it.
All right, here we
Wait a
go.
minute, you gotta skip me.
If y'all got any more questions, just let her rip. Order of the City of Water Valley, Mississippi Board of Aldermen establishing public records request policy. Whereas the Mayor and Board of Aldermen acting as the governing body for Water Valley, Mississippi, the governing authority, desire to adopt a public records request policy in accordance with Mississippi Public Records Act of 1983 codified as Mississippi Code annotated 2561 at C, the Act, and whereas the governing authority has followed the protocols set forth in the Act, which sets forth the general procedures to be followed when responding to a request for public records. The Act was amended by the Mississippi Legislature for Laws of 2016, Chapter 356, Section 1, effective July 1, 2016. Whereas the governing authority desires to amend its prior policies, I can change that.
Because if we don't have one, then they do have it, right?
I agree.
Okay.
All right. The desire is to adopt whereas this order is adopted pursuant to the Act as amended and established procedure by which all records as defined by the Act and the portions of such records not exempt from disclosure will be made available in accordance with the procedure set forth herein. Now therefore be it resolved, a motion made by and seconded by and carried unanimously by the governing authority hereby adopts a public records request policy for the public disclosure of non-exempt records as follows. Request procedure. All requests for access to or copies of public records will be in writing submitted to the city clerk. That's where I made the changes.
That was one.
Requests shall identify with as much specificity as possible the records being sought and the name and address of the person or entity seeking the records. 2, the city clerk shall respond to the records request in writing within 7 business days from the date of the request is received, subject to paragraph 3. And let me stop you right here. I agree with the sentiment that I recall now. This is a 67-year-old memory. 66, excuse me.
You got out of it.
That it does say 1 day, but it can be expanded by policy. Okay, 3, the records requested are found to be non-exempt and subject to disclosure. The city clerk will notify the requesting party of the time, date, and location when the same may be expected in the event the city clerk is unable to produce the non-exempt requested public records by the 7th working day after the request is made. A written explanation will be provided to the person making the request, stating the record requested will be produced, but specifying with particularity why the records cannot be produced within the 7-day period. The written explanation will identify the time, date, and location when the records will be produced in the same manner as set forth in paragraph 3. In no event shall the date for the governing authority or the head of the appropriate department as appropriate to produce the requested records be any later than 14 working days from the receipt of by the public body of the original request. 4. If the party making the public records request has so requested, the requested records may be mailed or shipped to the requesting party. In this event, the compiled records will be placed in the mail not later than the date the city clerk identifies as the date the records would be produced pursuant to paragraph 3. 5. The records requested are, if the records requested are found to be exempt, the city clerk shall notify in writing the requesting party of the denial of the request. All denial shall contain the specific reasons for the denial will be maintained on file for not less than 3 years. Go ahead.
I think that we should put from the date such denial was made.
All right, I don't have a problem with that.
Yes, they left that piece out. Because you want to be specific about how long that is. And this is actual the date. From the date such denial was made.
All right. All denials shall contain the specific reasons for the denial and will be maintained on file for not less than 3 years. The records furnished to the city clerk, which are subject to confidentiality restrictions, will not be released until notice to third party has been given. The records requested will be produced to the requesting party in the format requested if such format is reasonably available and such format does not result in or create a reasonable threat that it will result in an intrusion into the business activities of the governing authority or its departments, a violation of copyright laws, violation of licensing agreements or licensing rights, or divulge protected software. Fees per the Act. Charges are assessed on a cost recovery basis. Any requesting party desiring copies of public records shall be charged 25 cents per page, or the actual cost incurred by the governing authority for copying the records, whichever is greater. Copies of pages printed on both front and back shall be considered 2 pages. In the event of searching, reviewing, or duplicating records, or separating of non-exempt material from records requires more than 1/4 of an hour, an hourly rate may be charged to the requester in addition to the copy charges. Such hourly rate shall be based upon the hourly rate of the lowest paid employee of the governing authority, qualified and available to perform the necessary work. Total hours charges to the requester shall not exceed the total hours expended by the governing authority or the appropriate department thereof personnel. Certified copies of records are requested. The following additional charges will be assessed. $3 for the first page certified, $1 per page for each page certified. All fees required of the requesting party shall be paid in advance of the records being produced. If payment is tendered in the form of personal or company check, then there will be a waiting period of 14 days for the check to clear before the records are produced. Exempt records. Any record expressly exempt from disclosure or deemed privileged by the actor or any state or federal statute, constitution, or code will not be made available for inspection or copy. Provided, however, if a record which is found to be exempt from disclosure contains material which is non-exempt, the city clerks will separate the exempt material and make the non-exempt material available for inspection or copy. All prior orders and resolutions of the governing authority establishing policy and procedures responding to are hereby received and repealed.
Do we need that part?
Well,
just in case there's one we don't know about?
Yeah, right.
Alright.
I thought we had one.
I know I kept getting interrupted a little bit, but just had one little question. I can ask you later, you know?
Well, we can't do anything tonight on it.
Yeah.
Or does
Who are the
this
third
needs to be
parties?
published?
Hmm?
This needs to be published before we.
No, you don't have to.
Who were the
post.
third, this is not an ordinance, right? Who were the third parties that mentioned? Who were the third parties in number 6?
Let's see. That would be, all right. This is, if you wanted a, for example, a personnel file, or if you wanted the salary of an individual, what is exempt under there is deductions, like, certain deductions like child support and social security amounts.
That's gonna be redacted.
That would be redacted.
So
The
those
third
would-
parties would be, that person.
Okay. All right. And then when they pulled, when South Haven, Albrecht, when they pulled this, they left this sentence out.
Where is that?
This piece for the public body's production of the question records maybe that part right there, this underline. They just left it out. They just want to add it back.
Which part? Can you
Just
tell me?
start right here with the word
I
for.
read that.
For public bodies, let me see. Here. In no event shall the date, and it skips.
To produce requested records be
Okay.
later than 14 days. Is that not the same?
From the
From the receipt of the public body
Okay, all right, got it.
original request. That's
And
it.
we don't need to put anything about competitive sealed bids, proposals, sealed bids, because they left that out.
Well, for instance, if you were letting up a contract on, our sewer
Airport,
system,
so forth.
those are public records.
Well, do we need to put that in there for, to protect the competitive sealed proposals?
You don't have to.
Okay.
You're gonna be governed by this.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Like, you know, the preempts, state statute preempts that.
Okay.
Did you say we couldn't act on this tonight?
Well, I'm gonna make those changes, and I'd rather have it
Okay.
in
All
final
right.
form. I mean, there's no hurry on it.
All right, gotcha.
Could we add
You want a
something?
copy of what I got?
I would like to see a copy before the next meeting.
I'll be glad to give you one.
But could we add some specificity about the form, rather than someone walking in and
Sure.
writing on a Post-it and handing it to them?
I'm all ears, man, I'm all ears.
I have a follow-up.
Attorney
question.
What question?
I mean, it's the
You gonna have to
That's a
read
good
it
idea.
again?
Right.
That's a good question. Are you gonna have to read it again next time?
We don't have to put anything else in there, because
Daniel's
this
gonna
says, this says by whatever format,
This is amended.
and this would be it.
Great.
Okay.
Good.
I can put in there, the request shall be made. Most people are gonna say, well, can't I just do it myself?
Well, you can tell them no, because Vivian needs to be streamlined, and say,
Well-
you have to use our form. Just like every other city does,
But how
like
you
you
get the
said.
form to them?
They have to come by and pick it up when
What
they
if
make
they're
their
in
request.
Memphis?
It's available on the
It
website.
is available on the website. They can send it to you in an email format. We can scan it, and
We
it's a
got it.
PDF.
We got a
format.
website?
No, but she has email.
I have email.
It's just a lot of people I know don't have it.
Nobody has it. People don't have
People don't
email.
have email.
Then how are they gonna make an
A
electronic
lot of
request
lawyers
out of
don't have
Memphis?
email.
Okay,
Let me tell you.
you done with your question?
Yes, sir.
I have a follow-up question about, especially for pieces that are not, letter size or legal size. For example, something that's been approved by the planning commission, that's a plat that we can't really copy. So I'm not asking for necessarily for a copy of it, but this really doesn't impact just letting the public have access to these documents, correct?
Like a planning commission.
Well, or anything that we can't necessarily reproduce, if we just wanted to come up here and take a look at it let's say at a
Well,
plat or at
I
something.
assume they don't type theirs up, their minutes and stuff. I assume they don't. I may be wrong.
No, I was,
I've never been to one.
I'm talking about like the actual plats that are submitted to the planning commission.
Oh, okay, yeah.
This tells you can come in during working hours,
And
8 to
take-
5.
Okay.
No holidays, no weekends, just working hours. And I'm sure they'll be glad to let you
Yeah,
come in.
but
and
it
look
is,
at it.
you can
That
access without actually making a request for a copy. Yes.
Well, yes, I mean, that
Yeah.
is your request. You come in
Yeah.
and make a verbal request.
This doesn't require you to copy anything.
Yeah,
You wanna
can come
see
and look
that-
at it
And look at it
Come
all
and look
day
at
long.
You can.
Until 5.
Yeah.
On that,
Wait a minute.
Are we done?
I didn't say a word.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you
On that
got it.
request, if I wanted to come in and take a picture of a plat or a picture of a information that was provided on my with my phone or something, is that allowable under this policy?
Yep,
Thank you.
that's allowed. There's an AG opinion on that you can take pictures with your phone and without charge.
Okay, moving on. You're gonna come back with a corrected copy next board meeting. Great. All right, next item on the agenda is, we need to purchase a police car, and we get those annually at, state contract price. And we have the chief wants to get a Ford police sedan, and the state contract price is $22,279.
Did we lose a police car?
We get one every year,
Okay. So this
Yeah.
is fleet update.
but to answer your question, yes.
Oh, we did lose one.
But this is,
This is a separate.
right, yeah. This is built in.
Are we gonna
We rotate them every year. So I have a motion that we do that. Second, gentlemen, any further discussion? Those in favor? Okay, thank you. Then Vivian has a word for us on this municipal compliance questionnaire. It's a document that we need to get into the minutes.
Yes, sir, I have to do it every year for our auditor, and this is to finish up the 2016, so it could be done in a timely manner, and I've answered the questions that's, that just provides that we have done what we feel that we're supposed to do, and we enter it to the minutes, and he puts it in the audit.
Okay, motion to put this muni compliance questionnaire into the minutes.
We need to go over it.
Vivian, the questions that are asked on the questionnaire, I mean, because we haven't seen that, so can I see that real quick?
You got one. You brought it back from Jackson.
Yeah, well, no, I
Well,
found this,
yeah, no.
you see this thing, Office of the State Auditor,
Yeah.
Municipal Budgeting?
I haven't seen this.
I pulled it out of there last month, because we were talking about the budget, so
You record
any
any
word
word
for
for years, that's just a decoy.
I asked Vivian about it. She said that she actually was gonna be bringing that up, so
Here we
I
are.
have my copy that I pulled out of my, one of my giant folders over here. It's probably the same thing.
It is, it's a standard.
Take that away from me. You just get me in trouble. I need to email me. I'm sorry.
How you coming there, Keegan?
It looks like Miss Vivian is doing an excellent job. Just give me 2 more minutes. There's one item here about,
Oh, you found some.
I found a question.
Bring it on.
Okay. Travel authorized in advance and reimbursements made in accordance with section 25-3-41. We have some travel that I believe we approved, I want to confirm, when the 3 newbies went down for 3 days of classes.
You just went to the wrong classes.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot going to yours, sir. So is there a process now, since we approved that, we still haven't submitted our travel costs? Does that have to come back before the board, or was it approved at that time?
Well, they approved y'all that night, don't pay you back, so that was already taken care of.
Gotcha.
That was a reimbursement for the actual fees to the conference. But like, I have a travel voucher here that does, this is the state, I pulled it, I told you I went to the state right here. So I went and pulled this, and it gives your meals and your lodging and your travel, and I pulled these things for reimbursement for meals and mileage. Are y'all doing that?
Did you,
Meals and mileage?
you got your receipts for your lunch?
Yes, sir. I have a whole packet to give you. I just brought this because I keep this in my book. I was gonna ask her about it. I didn't know Kate was gonna. So do we get reimbursed for food and travel and lodging?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Very much.
Cinnamon does.
Can we have a motion? Okay, Nicole makes a motion. John seconds. Those in favor?
Oh, sorry.
Y'all got to read it and I didn't? Okay.
Nope. I'll wait.
I go.
That's the way to do it right there.
I want a copy of this, so.
Okay. Those in favor? Okay. Okay, Miss Charlotte, wanted to speak to the board a minute.
Yeah, clearly, this is the night sort of for this conversation. My request is for the board to consider options for keeping our community and clearly new members of the board informed about what's going on in our city government, both with the Board of Aldermen and with the Planning Commission. Citizens who attend these meetings would like to have access to an agenda prior to walking in the door. This would allow us time to actually look at what the action items are, and even if we have enough time to discuss them with our individual board aldermen, and then they could forward the questions and take care of the questions, and we might could cut down on some of what we're seeing this evening. And it could also just decrease the amount of time that we spend here in these meetings. So it's also, I'm bringing up the Planning Commission too, because it was obvious earlier this year. There have been instances where notification of meetings of the planning board were not really available to the public. The first being the Golden Wing, when Golden Wing submitted their plat on April the 17th, and nobody in the community knew about it. And that really became somewhat problematic because some of the members of our community felt like we'd kind of been blindsided by that because the Planning Commission just summarily approved it, and we were kind of left in the dark about that. Then there was the granting of a waiver for the vet clinic on Main Street. And again, that was approved, but then it came before the board, right? And the questions got raised at that point in time, and then that particular waiver got tabled, and of course that put,
And a new business went in there before we met again.
yeah, but I was gonna say that was gonna put both the, you know, the property owner, he kinda got blindsided at that meeting too, as well as that leasee. So, the planning commission bylaws state that the copies of the agenda will be made available to the commission members at least 2 days prior to their regular meeting day. My suggestion would be that members of the public, if they're interested, have access to those agenda items as well. And because we're still functioning in a paper copier world, I would like for the board to begin thinking in terms of how can we streamline this? How can we make this electronic? How can we put this on a website that, for those of us who have access, could actually pull this stuff up and read it before the meetings, and that we'd be kind of ahead of the game. So, you know, monthly calendars could be put on there, agendas could be put on there. Documentation about action items could be available, because a lot of times this stuff comes up and we really don't know the background or what all is involved, the specific data, okay? And data points are really important. So I'm requesting that the board begin to work on a process for Bow-Ray to share information with the citizens of this community. And as Thomas Jefferson noted, an informed citizenry is the only true repository of the public will. So thanks for the opportunity.
Amen. Backroom deals can be made then.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp.
Thank you.
Great.
So can we discuss,
We will continue on here.
I'm sorry,
She
could we-
asked us to consider it.
Could
Okay.
the board take a moment to discuss amongst itself what was just proposed? Is that
Yeah,
allowed?
go ahead.
Okay.
About 3 minutes.
So I completely agree that every time I come to these meetings, and this is my third, I did not see an agenda because I was not in town to come and request it.
We don't send them to Europe.
Email goes all over the globe, sir. I did not see any of the things that we've considered, except for Mr. Crowe, you did provide a version of that last time, but I had not seen the municipal survey. Can we do something? We don't need to finalize our agenda on the Thursday before with no idea what's going to happen. I would be very comfortable having a loose draft agenda that's available for everyone, and things that happen closer to the meeting are last minute things. But I'm not quite sure why we wait until the last minute to let anybody know what is going to be discussed at this meeting. And I don't think it would be difficult. We have local examples. Our county is able to produce a working draft agenda weeks before their meeting, and then if things come up, as they will in government, it can have additions right before the actual meeting. But I completely agree that our process is inefficient, it's unfair to the public, and it's unfair to the board members. I've been shocked that, as a board member, I don't know what's going to happen until I arrive here. So is there anything we can do to improve this process for ourselves and the public? And how do other people feel?
They have policies in place to have a certain copy of the agenda in advance, a copy of the minutes from the last meeting in advance. They're readily available usually on the website or by email from the city clerk.
I'm talking about what do we want to do? How do you feel, Tom?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're all about open government. I mean, we're not trying to hide anything. Years I've been on here. I don't know about developing websites, stuff that's more in your area.
I think we could start.
And I mean, you know,
I think we could start simply with timing improvements. That our county does not have a website, I don't think. Does our county have a website?
We just got one.
Okay, so our county hasn't had a website, but they have been following a process that allows everyone to see what's going to be discussed at some point far before the meeting, and then if things change in the last minute, you can make those changes.
Let me tell you something about changes. We got things, we may have a legal size list with 30 items that come up on the agenda. That's everything. But those are continually added on up to the meeting. And if something comes up in the meeting, the regular meeting,
So in my personal, professional life, if I did not have an agenda for a meeting, if someone called a meeting that I didn't know what I needed to be aware of, I would not attend. It was unprofessional. And I feel like the public feels that way, and I'm feeling that way about these meetings.
I agree with you. The issue is if you have a cutoff time for the agenda, and that's the agenda concrete for the next meeting, you're gonna rue the day you enacted a policy that had that on it, because it shuts you down.
We already have that.
Not a policy. Well,
The agenda's
I
closed
don't-
on the Thursday
Thursday.
at 5.
I don't know what you have, to tell you the
Look,
truth.
Vivian can tell you that the agenda's closed on Thursday at 5,
Well, then,
right?
That's right.
Okay, that's
Our
right.
ordinance.
That's
But
an
if-
ordinance.
but if something comes up on the Friday following,
Yeah.
and you can't talk about it on Tuesday, then you're looking at a special recess meeting, if it's urgent enough to talk about it, a recess meeting or a special meeting, depending on how you want to do it.
So it should be closed to the public, and then anything that comes up with the governing authority, they can come up, they don't have to be
I
on the
agree,
agenda.
I agree,
We can talk about, like you said, if it comes up, we have the right and authority to talk about that.
I agree.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what can we do to have our agenda available to us as well as to the public until it is sealed and closed on the Thursday before? So that it is available and visible? What kind of ordinance can we adopt to make that happen?
Other cities have a policy.
Yes, sir. Apparently we
Yeah,
have an
you know, you're
ordinance.
You need some
Unless
code-
they ask me something, it's my policy just not to speak. It's safer that way.
I'm gonna let you sit here.
We're not scared.
I'm gonna let you sit.
You gotta sit by me next time.
You can have a policy about, just like we've been talking about, and about your agenda, about when the cutoff time is, similar to what we have is to people, citizens, anyone who has interest or business before the board about the city that would, that wants to speak, then they have a cutoff date. But as far as the Board of Aldermen, then there is no cutoff time.
Okay, so
It still doesn't answer how you, the
Right.
question, I think she asked how you get it to the public.
Can I give you an example?
You know, that,
We have to get a recess first.
yeah.
this is open discussion. Certainly, we're discussing.
Okay, there's a city close to us, this is another small town. The minutes from the previous meeting are provided to them 15 days after the meeting, so they can be looked over. And I don't have to stop the meeting, and Larry gets mad and says, let's hurry up, send them in for spin. And, you know, and I'm sorry, and I keep saying I'm sorry, but I gotta stop saying I'm sorry in meetings because this is my job. And, you know, I got elected and I get paid for it a little bit. But they have a policy, 15 days after the meeting, the minutes are available to be read by the alderman, so we know how to vote when we get here. That's a time saver, you want that, we want that. There's another thing that they have in the same place. They have the agenda as it builds available on the website, but let's say it's 10 days before the meeting, 5 days before the meeting, for the alderman and the public, general public, to watch it build. Now, there's a cutoff date, yeah, but you can see what's on there when things come on there. If it's a sewer we know we're about to do, then put it on there. And you build the agenda, and you start building the agenda after the adjournment of the previous meeting. And you've got 30 days for it to build up to know what things are
Point
coming
you to
up,
do a website
what,
to find it.
you know,
There-
what's
I-
happening in the city.
I think a website would be great, and I'd like to get us there. I think in the short term, a whiteboard mounted somewhere in a public space that is added to as agenda items come up.
Yeah, but I could come up and I could change that. I mean, there has to be something
Put
more
the camera
permanent.
over it.
A webcast, a live webcast.
I would never do that. Somebody else would, you know. But, I might, I don't know. But these are good ideas.
Could,
They do it all through a website. You go to the agenda, you click the agenda comes up, it's built, and every line item that's on the agenda that has supporting documentation, for example, tonight we would have gotten, John's new copy of the thing. We would have gotten the bid opening on the sewer project. We would have gotten, list of things Charlotte's talking about. We would have gotten the, document on the police car at the state purchasing budget level. We would have gotten a copy of the completed municipal compliance questionnaire,
I
that
would
kind of
love
thing.
to see this before we sit down so that we don't have to sit here
Right, and
flip through them.
that's also provided,
Well, sitting here, we don't want to
that's
have
also
time to look at
provided
it, though,
for,
Until after the meeting.
Yep.
for public viewing on their website. So
So-
they've got the docket, the agenda, and the minutes. And those are the three big things that I struggle with trying to read through, because I can't read and comprehend everything
I think
while we're having a
basically-
meeting.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Basically what y'all saying is we need a website. Is that not what y'all saying?
No, I don't care how you get it.
I
to
mean,
me. I want the,
I say I'm not a high tech, but
I
you
want
know,
this
I
agenda
know.
before the day of the meeting.
Yeah. But,
And I'd like to see the minutes so I don't have to read them in the meeting while we're having a meeting.
right, I understand.
And
But
supporting
still,
documentation, so.
You know,
we'll
if you
have
get
to-
it to the alderman, then how about the public? Because, that was the request I was hearing tonight, that the public wanted to know more.
Sure.
I agree, so I would like to.
And what is the best way to disseminate that?
This sounds selfish, but at a minimum, because we've been elected to do this, I would like to, for us to know, and I would like for the,
That's right, they're unofficial minutes until but I wanna read the unofficial copy of the minutes. What I got tonight, this right here. I didn't wanna sit here and be pressed to I didn't read all that. I just finally gave up and said, yes, sir, got it. But I don't got it. I'm gonna go home and read it tonight and see what I voted on. And that's a backwards process for me. That's a backwards process for government. Did I just say government?
I would like,
I mean,
I
I
would like
don't
to
like doing that backwards.
propose and see how the rest of the board feels about this.
I can't
That-
read this during the meeting. You cut me off a couple of times. I can't read this during the meeting
I agree.
and interpret it
Mhm.
and compare it to the one from last month. But if I have this in advance, that's done and I can sign off on it with confidence, with knowledge and education.
Thank you. I would propose that the board receive whatever state the agenda is in and all supporting documentation the Monday before the meeting. So that we have time, and once we figure out our steps to make it available to the public, that would let the paper be an option, websites,
Say that
Facebook.
again.
The Monday before we sit down to have these discussions, how many of these items for tonight's
Okay, the
discussion?
meeting's on Tuesday.
What about Friday?
I'm sorry, the week,
Oh, we have the
a
weekend.
Monday,
Okay,
a week
'cause I was
before.
wondering if
Tentative.
mine 25.
Tentative of
So,
agenda.
tentative agenda.
to receive a tentative agenda with all supporting documentation for anything that is on that tentative agenda. Because almost everything I see here, we would have known about 8 days ago. And the documentation would have been available 8 days ago, as opposed to all of us scrambling and asking silly questions here that we could have proposed to the appropriate knowledge base earlier and come prepared. Does that sound okay with everyone?
Okay, that's been fair and better late than never, right?
You missed some great stuff, Fred.
I think the question be proposed to Vivian if she can have all that done.
I will say on the bills, a lot of our bills don't come into the last minute, but we want to go on and get them paid so they won't carry over. That's why these are always really at the last minute, but anytime y'all want to come in, we'll see what we've already got ready before the last minute. Be glad to show it to you. We might have the printout, but we can show you the bills that will be on it.
So the printout, you print that out on Tuesday?
Pretty much, because we kind of make sure we get everything in that comes in maybe the first part of the month, so it won't carry over. We don't want it carrying over. If we've got the invoice, but maybe the statement came in, most of the time the invoices are already in before the last day of the month. But we usually print that Tuesday. But the bills are already written up, we'll be glad to show them to you.
Can we set as a policy something to that effect, and it doesn't have to be my proposal, but 8 days before the meeting, every alderman has a packet that they can educate themselves based on and be prepared for the meeting? And then we can figure out how to get that information beyond ourselves.
I think you need to, if you want that, what do you want in the packet? You need to spell it out exactly.
I would like everything that is on the agenda up to that point in time,
And
and all supporting documentation for those agenda items.
like I said, if Ethan can do it, you know, that's the,
I'll do the very best I can.
How do we make that official?
Well, I think, why don't you get yourself together, jot that down and submit it to Vivian and let her massage it and see if she can do it.
Those 2 sentences?
Come on, dude. You need to hang around here a little bit, okay?
I have had to come
No,
to
no,
these
no,
meetings
no, listen.
and push, if I see the agenda beforehand, it's because I personally came to this building and asked 3
Right,
times.
right, exactly.
And I'm an elected official who's supposed to make decisions
And
on
this-
behalf of everyone who elected me.
And you can come to this building and glean that information. Okay? But I understand what you're wanting, but just helter-skelter here and give me this, this, this. Why don't you jot it down for her and let her work her way through it and see if she can do it. Okay?
Well, I would like to propose that once you
Excuse
jot
me,
that
excuse me,
down.
ma'am, please. He's got the floor.
Is that the appropriate process to adopt a policy? To write something, consult with Vivian to make sure it fits her abilities and time, and then submit it to the board?
I think that in formulating a policy, you can do that. But as far as, if you're gonna adopt a policy, as far as what's on the agenda, when it should be made public, and deadlines relative thereto, then you need all your information. I think what Larry was talking about is see if she can handle this, what we've talked about thus far.
Okay. And the next step would be, if we consult with Vivian and she says, I need this much
Right.
time, what would the next step be?
Daniel, draft your good little policy.
And then we'd read it just like we did tonight, and then we'd have a motion and a second and pass it.
Well, I will take that on myself to jot that down, and Vivian, as her time permits, will come and chat.
So minutes, docket, and agenda, is that what you're looking for? That's what I'm looking for.
well, he said he needed documentation. He'll write it down.
Well, yeah,
We'll-
and,
we'll-
and
we'll-
supporting documentation.
For whatever, yes. I'll disseminate that as legally as possible for opinions to come back.
Okay, all right, next item on the agenda. Nicole wants to attend the Small Town Conference in Oxford, October 25th and 26th. And that's at a cost of $110, Nicole, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's actually for the small town, and then there is another, I can't
Town,
remember the date, it's still in October.
October 12th.
yeah.
So
For
it's
the water
2.
treatment?
No,
October the
that's,
12th
for
is the
email as
CMO
well.
elective evening classes.
Yes, the 110 is the total for both.
Okay. So it'd be, in order for us to authorize that, need a motion to that effect. Kagan makes a motion, Fred seconds, those in favor. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll do it tonight. You ready?
no, if you wanna add mine, that'd be fine.
Yeah.
It's the
Let's-
same thing. It's a
Let's
small town
include
conference in there.
Cinnamon in that.
Is that for the Oxford event?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's 2 Oxford events,
Oh,
it's 2 different things.
I'll bring mine back on.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, we need to advertise for what we call haul and lay on asphalt. We used to do our own laying and hauling, and that was in another time. And we've, our laying machine, asphalt spreader, has gone on to glory. So we, a few years ago, started having somebody else haul and lay when those occasions come up. And we need to get that behind us. So we need to advertise for haul and lay on asphalt when and if it happens.
When did our other one go kaput?
8 or 9 years ago.
Oh dear. Oh, is it still on our
I think probably it
property?
is.
What are we gonna do with that thing? We gonna scrap it out or?
Probably so.
All right, so how do we go about doing that?
We have a scrap sale occasionally. And
Okay.
get everybody to list their junk.
All right,
And
gotcha.
then we go through the process of advertising it and soliciting bids on it.
So we hadn't had one in 9 years?
No, we've had them, but we hadn't pried Michael loose from that machine.
So he's been doing it.
Yeah,
All
They
right,
kept
gotcha.
trying to
Okay.
make it
So we need a new one.
it's been a long time since he did. No, we don't need a new machine.
We don't need a new
We
one.
come out a lot better by
Oh, we're gonna advertise for somebody else to come in and
contract it
contract
out.
that out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If we did.
So, can I get a motion to that effect? Don makes a motion, is there a second? Nicole seconds. Those in favor? Okay? And, throughout the year, we buy asphalt, hot mix we call it, and we buy that at state contract price. And each year, I try to get into the minutes a motion that we do that we purchase hot mix for asphalt at state contract price. And that price will vary quarter to quarter generally, but it is the cheapest asphalt available out there is at the state bid price. These primarily Lehman Roberts furnishes it to the state at state contract price.
So we don't know a price on that.
Right now, it's about $66 a ton.
Okay.
And, but that's subject to change. It doesn't swing that much, but when you got 2 hurricanes coming in and, you know, it's, asphalt is a petroleum-based product, so it does affect it from time to time.
Okay.
We don't have to buy it, but time to time we do have to buy it. Got a lot of cuts in our streets out here now, and, it requires hot mix.
We'll be needing that for the sewer project.
That should be, okay, so I need a motion to put that in the minutes that we purchase asphalt at the state contract price. Kagan, Donald, your way,
I'm awake.
seconds that motion. Those in favor? Okay? Thank you, and that concludes our agenda tonight. Appreciate you being here.
I've been advised by Daniel to always ask him if we asked him a question last meeting that he did research on and we didn't ask him to tell us the answer.
I thought about that about an hour ago.
Is there anything that we asked you for that?
Can you tell what the question was?
We were wondering if we reappointed everybody.
No, this was.
Oh, that's a
was that
different
the
question that Daniel hasn't
No.
answered.
At the last session, y'all asked me what contracts must be renewed by the new board.
Okay.
And pursuant to the Attorney General, no board can subsequently bind a future board to its decisions, and that makes a contract voidable, but not in and of itself void. So y'all have the discretion to continue with existing contracts as they come to your knowledge and in front of you, or renegotiate them at will when it's prudent to.
Okay. So we continue to operate under our agreements unless we have a get-out-of-jail-free option as a new board.
That's exactly right.
So we don't have to renew all contracts that are open and current right now?
That's correct.
But you have the choice to go and look at them and decide.
Where did we find those contracts? We don't know what they're available. We don't know what contracts are out there.
That is not in my purview.
It should be in the minutes.
You just have to look through the minutes for the
Where's the
last
minutes book?
20 years.
I have them in the vault.
Okay.
They're
Can we
huge.
check that out like the library? 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, working hours.
You have to read it in the office or something.
I can do it. Y'all got a desk?
You gotta make a
Come in here with those
No,
spreadsheets.
I don't have to make a book request.
Yes, it be right.
Or just say that in there.
Was that,
It's
was
in
that,
there.
That was the question.
that was the, okay. Something that I see that was missing from this agenda that we had talked about in the last meeting was to pull out calendars, which I brought in expectation, but I didn't see the agenda, to go through some of the bigger items that we've talked about the city. I had proposed my starting point, and I gave everyone a copy from the last meeting. Did anybody have any other topics? One was brought up at the beginning of this meeting of the sidewalks, in terms of something that is a bigger ticket, long-term concern for the city that we might talk about at some point, and taking those items and sprinkling them across our future meetings so that we're not bogged down in any given meeting. Does anybody have any additions?
Don't have any issues now, but I think if you just put them on the agenda, I mean, if you know, particular date, talk.
Maybe start to go down the list.
Okay.
Because you can bring up anything, you don't have to be on the agenda.
Well, what I'd like, the reason for putting them out there, and I think the paper published the full list, is to allow ourselves to prepare, to figure out what kind of, especially some of those things are expensive. So to do some research before we get here, again, not to waste everyone's time, to allow the public to educate themselves or come out in number because they know we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to their hearts.
And their budgetary issues that we were looking at.
So did nobody have any additions to the document? Guys, I typed it
I
up and
have it, but I
everything.
don't have it with, I brought all
I
this,
have
Kagan, but I don't have it on me right now. I got a PDF file I can shoot you out. No, not shoot you, I'll send it to you.
So does anyone recall the list of items that I sent out? Are there any one or two items that stand out that we'd like to put on the agenda for next month?
We talked about raises in the budget. We talked about different
would love it.
departments that need equipment, that are looking for raises, or looking for additional personnel. Those are things that I'd like to look at.
Beer.
These will be one of the first items.
So I'll read them quickly. We had frequency of board meetings, Main Street Wi-Fi, town budget, which I think we've
We're working on
worked on
that.
quite a bit. Fire department, police department, schools, economic development, traffic calming, parks, youth activities, summer after school options, pool, dilapidated properties, rental properties, safety requirements, and beer ordinance. Do any of those stand out as something that we'd like to discuss next month?
Do you own property up on Clay Street?
I sure do, and I would love to
Is
talk
it
about.
dilapidated property?
It absolutely is.
Can you cut your grass, please?
And that is why I think we need ordinances to keep people like me
In line.
in line
We
with
have-
We
property.
have those
We have
ordinances.
them.
We have
We
them.
should enforce them
Yeah,
then,
that's right.
Summer
and talk about how we go about doing that, and if our police officers need more.
Oh, they're gonna need more personnel to
Folks.
be able to run the streets and try to start,
So
enforcing
when would we
ordinance.
like,
Clean
not
yards.
tonight, but what would we like to discuss next month? Anyone have,
I'd like to talk about fire and or police, and the needs that they have. Whether it be personnel, wages, or equipment.
That's
Could-
critical.
Yeah,
Could
so
we-
pick one.
I'm good with that. I'd like to add into that traffic calming. It seems a little smaller, but it's two pretty sizable items for discussion.
Traffic who?
Calming, he's
slowing
talking
down.
about slowing down traffic. And people who run the 3-way and 4-way stops chronically. They don't ever stop.
For next month.
So that'd be a traffic calming problem.
Is everyone okay with those two things being on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a motion to adjourn. Donna makes that motion, Fred second. Those in favor? All right.